And it's the second to the last trading day of this week. Good morning, good evening, wherever the world you might be watching from. It's Business Morning, coming to you live from Channels HQ right here in Lagos. Let's get to the top stories that set your agenda now, starting with the oil market. We're seeing some kind of bounce there with oil prices this morning, still below that $90 level. That's for Brent, $87.39 a barrel, up 0.11% this morning. So we're seeing a lot of volatility right now in the oil market. WTI crude, though, that's up about 2 cents this morning, $82.71 a barrel, losing that $85 level. That's for WTI. Let's get a check on the crypto market. Now we see Bitcoin stock around that $61,000 level. They touched 60,000 yesterday. It's down 3.88%. We're seeing pullbacks across board right now. Ethereum losing that $3,000 mark, 3.51% down. BNB is down marginally, 0.08% this morning. So we're seeing red right there in the crypto market this morning. Let's get to some other stories now. We see the Central Bank of Nigeria has announced a reduction in the loan-to-deposit ratio for banks from 65% to 50% as part of its current monetary tightening strategy. This move, outlined in the statement, reflects the CBN's aim to align with a more contractionary policy stance. The adjustment in the LDR is a measure of a bank's liquidity and impacts the ability of the bank to extend credit to businesses and individuals from depositors' funds. By lowering the ratio, the CBN aims to moderate lending activities while promoting sound risk management practices within the banking sector. The Apex Bank says it will monitor compliance and adjust policies when necessary. Meanwhile, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olaimi Cardoso, has been reacting to the views that the regulator's intervention in the foreign exchange market is responsible for the depletion of the country's foreign reserve. Mr. Cardoso, speaking at the session of the ongoing IMF World Bank spring meetings in Washington, D.C., says the CBN is working on policies to support the market and ensure stability of the exchange rate. Take a listen.
What you see with respect to the shifts in our reserves is the shifts that you find in any country's reserve situation, where, for example, debts are due and certain payments need to be made. They are made because that is also part of keeping your credibility intact. And other times, money comes in and, takes it up again. And if you watch in the next couple of days, I think between yesterday and today, we had about 600 million US that came into the reserves account. So I wouldn't let people get too excited about this thing. All I will say is that we are looking towards ensuring that we have a market that operates on its own, willing buyer, willing seller, and price discovery. That's where we're going to. The shifts you've seen in our reserves has really little or nothing to do with defending any naira, and that's certainly not our objective.
Central Bank Governor there clarifying on matters there about the FX market. But we'll see to our first discussion now, the impact of higher energy prices. That's quite evident in the headline inflation for March, but there seems to be hope for lower diesel prices as the Dangote Petroleum Refinery slashed the price of diesel by 16% to 1,000 naira per litre from about 1,200 naira per litre. Joining us now is Jide Pratt, COO Aiona, Nigeria, and a country pilot manager at TradeGrid. Joining me right here in the studio. Great to have you. Good morning.
Same here. Thanks, Ladi.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the inflation numbers from food inflation hitting a new high of about 40%. Headline inflation also new high for that too. Last time we saw that was, I think, 1997 or so. But energy prices do feed into these numbers we're seeing here. And looking at Dangote slashing this price. Talk to me about how he's able to achieve this price. And I guess this is not market forces at work. Price determination.
So I think we need to put things in perspective. Why is the Dangote refinery able to cut down prices by as much as 100 naira? You must look at it that economies of scale come into the refinery. Anybody that is able to refine 19 million liters of gas oil on a daily basis can shape the market. There's no two ways around that. However, what he's going to do, or what the refinery is going to do, is have to take hedging options. They're buying crude. But every time they buy crude and they blend that into gas oil, they're trying to achieve an ex-refinery price that covers the cost of their operations. So assume that in trading, you have what you call a one-book scenario. You keep on trading and you keep on achieving a weighted average cost. I believe the Dangote refinery is getting some efficiency levels based on volume, based on the new refinery in terms of efficiencies. And that is why they're able to, for want of a better way, translate that to the market. Do I believe they will do this going forward? In the short run, yes. In the long run, the prices will continue to adjust based on the fact that there's a crude input. And don't forget, he's trying to achieve an ex-refinery price that gives him, let me say, some margins. And then they'll be able to play in this market continuously, in my opinion.
Right, and definitely we've seen the Naira, strengthen, the first quarter of 2024. How much of that is playing into how much the Dangote refinery can actually sell, diesel to the market at this time? And I'm wondering, is there a risk that he cannot achieve this price if the Naira weakens again?
So the answer to that immediate question is yes. How positive has this been? It's been massive. So what it is that there are two factors that will convert into a landed cost, or shall I say an ex-refinery price: the cost of your crude and your exchange rate. Just to dwell on that, I do believe that if the government is selling crude to the Dangote refinery in Naira, it takes out that, let me say, FX uncertainty. However, back to your statement, if it does go up and he still has a crude input which is based on FX, then the exchange rate will obviously take the prices back up. There's no two ways around it. There's going to be a balancing act to be able to achieve the numbers they want. But don't forget, ex-refinery for him is really, really key, because he must be able to get that price at a price where when they add their margins, it translates to what you call ex-depot. Ex-depot would obviously add their margins before it gets to what you call the retail play at the retail outlets. So that's how it works technically.
And we're seeing this, play out for diesel, at this time. But we know PMS, that's still hitting at the pockets of, the average consumer at this time. Talk to me about how we can actually get these energy prices down in the short to medium term.
Okay, so short term, two things, and we've talked about the efficiency of the refinery. But you see, in trading, you need to just hedge. You're going to have to place your bet on a tomorrow price that you don't see today. So to hedge, you're going to take lots when it comes to gas oil. And let's stick to gas oil first. So it means that I want to take a 60-day pricing, but I want to take it today because of where I think the market is going. I can do that at the Dangote refinery, because take it or leave it, I'm big enough to push the market. I'm big enough to guide the market, and we've talked about the efficiencies. So he's going to take forward positions on gasoline and gas oil. Right now, we're still doing the gas oil play. I think he's going to do the same for jet. But you see, once you can take those, what you can't control is the FX. I must say, Mr. Cardozo seems to be doing a very good job, and he's gotten it right. So sustainability, if he can do this long term, then it means that those trading distillates or those refinery can take more forward positions. Look at things like the FMDQ. If I want to take a hedge on FX, I can go to the FMDQ. The FMDQ guarantees a pricing for tomorrow again. It's like taking a hedge again, but everything is based on availability. FPIs seem to be going up. If they can go up on a consistent basis, then it makes it easier for distillate traders. It makes it easier for the refinery to take short, medium, and long-term hedges based on what happens in the market. It's doable, in my opinion.
And definitely, we've heard talks about, some kind of monopoly, happening here. And looking at, consumers, struggling, at this time. Going ahead, we're expecting inflation to peak, at some point. But the issues are still there. The structural issues, are still there. But we're hoping that it actually comes down. But is there a risk that, that at some point, Nigerians might not be able to enjoy lower energy prices going forward, knowing fully well that this is one man controlling the market?
So two things. And I think the FCCPC and the NMDPRA, they need to do their jobs. If they feel that there's a price gouging effect, but that risk is always there. But in my opinion, I don't set up a refinery to take undue advantage of the market. I set up a refinery by scale to be able to make sustained margins and profit over a long period of time. He has debts to pay. So what he's going to do is try and look at the market and say, okay, how much of this can I push? Don't forget, vessels will load. He'll make some margins in terms of trading, using ice and all that. But trucks will also load from the gantry. So for me, if, number one, the government is able to give him crude in Naira and meet the domestic crude supply obligations in giving him crude, then we can sit down and have conversations around the fact that what is going into local should have, and not no margins, but should have deemed margin expectations. Because don't forget, he's still selling to sub-Saharan Africa through vessels, through barges. But what is local? There must be a way of ensuring that the Dangote refinery, modular refineries, all get their crude as at when due. That now shifts the dynamics in terms of monopoly. So regionally, where you have different, modular refineries, they're also able to take positions around those regions so that prices begin to drop. As long as other factors of crude oil and exchange rates stay, let me say, constant.
Right, and talking about prices of crude oil, we're seeing WTI, sitting about $82 per barrel from about $85 over the weekend. Every trader and investor was expecting some kind of, tension, when it comes to the oil market. See, some already calling for $150, Brent. But this time, it seems the risk premium, that's been put aside, at this time. But talk to me about how, what we're seeing, playing out in the global oil market, how that impacts, this refinery, knowing that Dangote is, buying WTI.
Absolutely. So, crude oil always has triggers. Every distillate has triggers. So what is happening around Iran is the trigger at this point. So immediately after the drone strikes on the, the embassy in Syria, you notice that there was an immediate upshoot in terms of prices. However, since the retaliation, quote and unquote, from Israel hasn't happened, and conversations around it are going on, then it seems there's some more, let me say, some safety expectations, and then prices are deeming back into where they need to be. However, if things escalate, Ladi, it goes without saying, premiums will go up. War risk in terms of freight and everything will go off. The Houthi situation around vessels has not been totally solved. So once those happen, then what you see is we're going back to a case where margins will be escalated, tensions will be escalated, and crude oil prices will go up. That will lead to higher prices anyhow we look at it.
And looking at the technicals at this time, if WTI goes below that $82 level, what do you see the price next?
I always say this, I never use WTI or crude as an impact for derivatives. So it will be good to see where ICE gas oils go. Where does ICE gas oil go? If it goes down, top of my head today, you're looking at about $950 in terms of landing costs. And this is just a guesstimate based on what I know. Now, if those go up, then you're pushing towards 1,000. If those go lower, then you're moving towards 900 or 800 level. And I'm talking specifically to gas oil.
Right. So definitely there is hope that we can have low energy prices, in Nigeria at some point, with war seen playing out.
Yeah,
that's what the man on the street wants to know.
We've always seen playing out, Ladi, yes. There's no two ways about that. But always remember, if this indices change, the same way it goes south could be the same way it goes north. Whoever manages the energy space for Nigeria, the president, they just need to sit down and keep on thinking about what are the positives we can take. On the short run first, medium term next, and then long term.
All right, let's look at the Seplat ExxonMobil deal. We did hear the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources say that Nigeria is losing over 400,000 barrels per day because this deal, has not been, completed yet. Talk to us about this and why it's stalling.
So there's a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to oil and gas in Nigeria. So let's leave what has happened in the past. The question is this. There was an executive order 40, I believe, which the president signed into law. So what are some of the things that he's trying to do? If you notice, he's trying to shut down, or shall I say, shorten contract cycles from basically 36 to 48 months to 6 months. Those are global standards. So what it means is that if the NMDPRA, for instance, you need NMDPR or NUPRC, you need an approval. They're supposed to get back to you within 14 days. In the event that they do, then it's deemed to be that they've given you approval. That's number one. If you also look at the contract sums that we're talking about now, prior to this, I think we were at levels of $500,000. Now that's been moved to 10 million. So it means that before you need to go back to seek approvals, it's a higher threshold. I think things like that will help prevent the mistakes that have happened with the Seplat deal. Community issues, all these have been left, in my opinion, for way too long. Executive Order 40 tries to address some of these things. But you see, it's not just having an executive order. If those are implemented along the lines that they need to be implemented, then what you see is that there will be some traction. But for me, it's really down to the Minister of Petroleum Resources. He needs to sit down and say, guys, I need this done. What are the things that are blocking this deal? Because it's okay to say how much we've lost. The question is that how much do we not need to lose between today, the next 30 days, the next 60 days, and the next 180 days? I'm sorry, he needs to sort that out. But I think the Executive Order 40 gives a framework to be able to solve some of these anomalies.
So, in your opinion, what do you see this deal actually?
In my opinion, if he can't push this to happen within the next 6 months, then we have a major problem.
Right. So more losses, when it comes to barrels, and we're trying to get our output, out at this time. Talk to me about 2024. What are you seeing for Nigeria's energy market?
Okay, so let's be clear about one thing. We've gotten refinery, quote and unquote, right. What it is now is that if crude oil prices continue to stay along the levels it is, don't forget, budgets to now, we have we have a gain.
Right.
But what we need to do is that if we're still getting to, you notice that Libya has taken over in terms of barrels being produced. So what do we need to do? We still need to push to 1.7 million liters barrels a day. I think that if we do that on a sustainable basis, what it is that you get some gains in terms of volumes, but you also get some gains in terms of margin. The outlook for me is good, but we need to get beyond policies, we need to get beyond statements, and just do our jobs. If we get this, then the outlook for me is extremely good. It gives us something to build on till end of 2024, and even a better platform to build into 2025.
Yeah, because we know a lot of people have left diesel. Ever since prices escalated, we've seen them actually drop to PMS, even though we know PMS, it's still really expensive. But we do hope for the best. Yeah. Thank you so much. Great having you. Jide Pratt, COO, Aiona Nigeria, and Country Pilot Manager, TradeGrid.
Thank you so much, Ladi.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we analyze some other issues in the commodities market space. That's in a moment. To stay with us.